Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Friday, and all today's guests, including Thomas Drance, standing by, brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort. Book your next corporate or private event at the Bayside Oceanfront Resort in beautiful Parksville. Whether it's a small, intimate event or a large gathering of up to 100, the Bayside is ready to accommodate, offering full setup, including bar service and staffing, as well as business essentials to make your event seamless. Got themselves a heck of a chef there as well. Call 250-248-8333 or visit Bayside Resort Parksville. .com. Just ahead of Thomas Drance, Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox from DJT. Give credit to Hronek. His passes to Quinn are fantastic. Yeah. Hard and right on the tape. I'd like to see more games with Hronek and Hughes together on the power play. I think the power play is doing just fine. But if there's an adjustment to be made somewhere down the line, maybe you see that. Okay, Thomas Drance joining us from The Athletic. Canucks over the Sharks 10-1. Thomas, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Gentlemen, how are you?
Very good. 10-1. What can you read into a game like that against an awful hockey club?
Well, not just an awful hockey club, maybe the worst hockey club we've ever seen. Certainly off to the worst start we've ever seen. And that's not just like, we as in us, like the NHL, ever. Yeah. To find a start this bad, you either have to look to some of the worst Arizona Coyotes teams we've seen over the past decade, like true, frittering on the edges of insolvency, getting kicked out of your building type situations, or, like the Rangers in the 40s when a bunch of their team went off to war. To some extent, a lot of what we saw is about the Sharks, but a lot of what we saw is also a result of how thoughtfully, I think the Canucks have approached a variety of tough challenges. And I'll give you an example right off the bat. Bo Horvat's departure from this team on the power play isn't nothing. Like, that shot from the bumper spot was this team's most important weapon over the past few years. Certainly since fans were back in the building, Horvat eating 5-on-4, that pop pass from Miller, the way they set it up. I mean, it was the team's most efficient weapon. It was their most important weapon on the power play. And replacing that wasn't going to be easy. And yet you see with Brock Besser and the way that the team's rotating, that they've managed to sort it out in a really sharp way, and in a way that I think has accentuated what Brock Besser does. So right out the gate of the game last night, the Canucks get that double minor, and it's Besser with the goal, and it's Besser with the glorious setup off the end boards to Miller. I mean, to me, that's like thoughtful hockey. So, yeah, are there things overheated in the Canucks profile? Sure. Should we read too much into the fact that they crushed the Sharks, like absolutely demolished them? I don't think so. The Sharks are terrible. But the Canucks still played well, and I think the win was still a product of some of the thoughtful things they're doing. So credit to them. I mean, Canucks fans should have their chests pumped out today. That was a ton of fun to watch.
5 points for Quinn Hughes, 16 on the season, leading all National Hockey League defensemen. Thomas, in what ways, and he's been impressive right off the bat, but in what ways has he improved?
Yeah, so I think the key is it was hidden because of the bleep show defensive hockey that this team played as a group last year. But quietly, Quinn Hughes leveled up as a defensive player last season. Like, all of a sudden, he was just taking the puck from everybody who got close to him in on their hands. Puck was, his, and then it was going the other way. I think if you watched him really closely, you could tell. You could tell that his defensive game had hit a new level last season. And I just don't think the public, and I don't mean public Canucks fans, I mean the sleepy public that doesn't like to stay up for West Coast games, I don't think they realize that. This year, you've seen a tick up in terms of his offensive game. And Quinn Hughes has always been a deliriously good playmaker. But this season, you're seeing him shoot way more. His shot rate has spiked to a massive extent. Like, he's added a shot plus on a per game basis over what he was managing previously in his career. Has been among the NHL shot leaders from the blue line. And those shots aren't like wasted, empty calorie, 70 point or 70-foot point blasts. Those are him getting in or past a first defender and sending a really dangerous wrist shot short side, or him finding opportunities to shoot off the rush. Him realizing when there's good screens that he can shoot around, or even shoot for a rebound and it happens to go in. Maybe it goes in off Sam Lafferty. The fact is that this is a player who improved quietly defensively, and I don't know that the hockey world realized it last year. Now he's added a new attacking layer to his game. I mean, honestly, if Quinn Hughes stays healthy, if he shoots like this, if his role remains like this, I don't think 15 goals is out of the question for a guy who's never previously hit 10. That's the scale of the improvement that we're looking at here. I mean, this guy's been at a Norris level. There's no defenseman in hockey playing better than him right now, period.
And Thomas, the guy playing with him, has been unreal too. He's got 10 points in 10 games, and he's in a contract year, and his agent is tweeting every single day of the week how great he is.
The dynamic duo, though, that's like how you say to Donnie, right? Like, oh yeah, we're such a great pair, but one of you's a Hall of Famer.
So true. So very true.
Are you going to come in hot and heavy on me? Or because I'm going to take the gloves off. I'll take them off. I got stuff on you.
Get back to Hronek here.
Yeah, I asked about Hronek. He veered off to the left. Hronek contract. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. I've been told the Canucks are not worried. When you got to pay a good player, a good good mound, you got to do it. Bottom line.
Yeah, no, Hronek's been at a really good level. I do think you have to be a little bit careful with it, just because we're seeing some inflation in terms of the price of defensemen. Noah Hannafin's going to be an interesting one to watch here, especially because Hronek's counting stats are going to blow him out of the water. Those counting stats and the minutes he's logging all enhance his leverage in a not just in the way that they usually do, Rick, where it's like the agent doing cartwheel stuff, but because he's actually got arbitration rights, right? Like they massively strengthen his leverage in contract talks. I think Hronek's been really good, and I think his play has come on the last 4 or 5 games. Like, I think there was a point after that road trip where, I sort of wasn't certain that he was additive in terms of what he was bringing to that pair. I thought Quinn Hughes had hit another level, and for the most part, I was seeing a guy who was like several degrees better than what Ethan Bear was on Quinn Hughes's right side, but not like a totally different caliber of player. I think I've seen more over the past week, like the last 4 or 5 games, as the Canucks have really started to play well. I think that pair has been great, and I think Hronek's been full value in terms of helping to carry it. But I do think you have to be careful, like we've seen already, what Quinn Hughes can do in terms of getting guys paid, right? In terms of how Chris Tanev performed and earned a contract and then can continue to improve. But Luke Shen, we saw. I do think you have to be pretty careful in evaluating Quinn Hughes' partner. And if you're going to make a really big commitment to Filip Hronek, I would like to see him drive his own pair, right? Before the club sinks significant term and treasure. Fact is, he's played really well, though.
Yeah, we have got some in the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. It's only 10 games. Wait until they play Colorado, Vegas. Where are you with
Dallas.
that? No, Dallas.
But why?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not.
Dallas.
Don't bark at the biter. No, don't bark at me.
Don't bark at the biter?
Okay, I got that.
If you have to play...
I'm reading the Delaney's.
Fair enough. I like to drink Delaney's, but you can read it. I like to... I just want to ask this question. Like, if you have to beat Vegas and Colorado to be revealed for what you are, doesn't that mean you're one of the best teams in the league? Like, that's a pretty high bar here. Like, if we're already at the point where it's like the measuring stick is Vegas and Colorado, like, that's number 1 and number 2 in the league. Those are the last 2 Stanley Cup winners. I mean, that I think for me is less a question than it is a credit to what this team has achieved that we're even having this conversation. Are we asking the big picture? Like, what are they big picture? I don't think we know yet. I think we can feel pretty confident that their penalty kill has improved to the point where it's not a fatal flaw. I think we can be pretty confident that their special teams will be good and polished all season long. I think we know that Thatcher Demko is an incredible goaltender. And I think we're seeing, Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes be two of the best at their positions. And those are premium positions. There are other things going this team's way that I'll be curious to see. JT Miller, we're now at 46 games of him playing under Tocchet, where he's been an absolute two-way monster. But over the balance of his career, two-way like defensive difference maker at the center position hasn't been his MO, right? I mean, that's a relatively new development in his career. Mark Friedman, Ian Cole have really stabilized Vancouver's second pair. Does that last as the sample expands? And what will this club look like when they stop converting on 16% of their shots, or when their goaltending's not at a 930 rate, right? Because right now this team's getting a lot of favorable bounces, both in terms of their finishing efficiency and in terms of their save percentage. And despite that, I still look at them and see a team that's improved 5-on-5, has good special teams, has a genuinely good goaltender. I think they profile as a pretty solid playoff team. Not prepared to call that or put my stamp on it. But, I think this team's true talent level might now be somewhere in the mid 90s, where I was probably in the low 90s going into the season. If they can sustain it for 20 more games, I'll assert that with a little bit more confidence, because at about 30 games, when you played 1,000 5-on-5 minutes, we'll just know more about what this team is. But I think they're looking like a solid playoff team who's had some very good fortune at both ends of the rink, and that's sort of produced elite results over 10 games. That's great. That's great. Like, we've seen this team have good luck in their favor in past seasons and still manage to go 5-4-1 over a stretch like this, right? Or 6-3-1. Like, it's still a credit to the improvement of this team that, sure, the wind's at their back, but they're making a meal of it. They're taking advantage. I think you have to like everything you've seen from this Canucks start, and I'll be curious to see how it sustains over the next 20.
What are they capable of? You touched on that there. It's going to be the focus of our poll question. That's next. Thomas, thanks so much for doing this. We'll talk to you next Friday.
Thank you, gentlemen. Enjoy your weekend.